Let's tackle his spine next. At the minute, he's just got this, simple little FK spine there. And that is fine. Honestly, in the majority of bipeds, you'll use an FK spine most of the time. There's little need for any other kind of spine setup. It does work pretty well and it gives you good, easy posing options. However, of course, that is a matter of preference for whoever's going to be animating it. Some people prefer to work with different, styles of spine. And we saw in the quadruped video a nice simple little spline type spine that we can employ. You can put that on bipeds just as easily as we did on the quadruped. You may or may not set up the bidirectionality that we saw on the quad. That is to say that the root of the spine may just stay fixed and always just go with the hips, and it would be the top and the middle that you would just sort of slink around in the root space. And so that's a perfectly, decent design. But we're not just going to replicate that yet again. Instead, I want to look at an alternative spine system, which I think is pretty cool. And this is the contrapposto spine. Now, contrapposto. Contrapposto, in case you're not aware, basically means posed or positioned in opposition. And this is an incredibly common thing in, figure art. If you've ever done any kind of life drawing or similar, then contrapposto is something that you should have been taught. And basically it is the idea that the tilt of the hips and the tilt of the shoulder sit in opposition to one another. You see it time and time again in figure art. Now, of course, you can do this with the spline, as we saw before. You could make this a 3-piece spline spine. The first item, of course, would just be, fixed to the hip and bend with that, and then you would have the top item which would control the bank of your shoulder there and be the top of your spine. Then the middle item could of course just be slinked about side to side. This is also something that's very important for animation. If you've done any study of the way things move and how we, pose our characters as they're animating, especially walking or running, then the contrapposto method is incredibly common. As a character steps onto one leg and that leg takes the weight, the hip tips up on that side, it dips down on the other, and you flex your spine across and tilt your shoulders the opposite way in order to maintain balance. And you have this constant sort of tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock action going on, swinging left to right. As such, a contrapposto spine setup can be incredibly useful for an animator, and it can really make animating go an awful lot faster for certain moves. So let's take a look at how exactly we're going to set this thing up, and I'm just going to do it off to the side of our character here, and we'll, fix it in afterwards. So I'm just going to create one null there. I'll call it CP hips. I'll pop it over here. Create another one, call it CP chest, and I'll pop it over here as well. Snap it to that one and just move it up on Y so as they're both perfectly in line, and give them both a little item shape and colour there. Now what you can't do, of course, in Lightwave is have a dualistic constraint where A drives B and B drives A. So one of these two items needs to be the main driver. Since we've already got, of course, our root hips controller, I'm going to make the top or chest item be the main driver. So how could we set this up? Well, it's mostly a side-to-side thing, right? So maybe we could do it by doing a -1 multiplied same as item on the hips here. And so then when we tip the chest, the hips will tip in opposition. Now that's, grand and all, but I might like something that I can do a bit more with rather than just doing rotations. I might want to be able to sort of lean him to the side by pushing him around like this, and that doesn't have an effect. And of course what I can't do is link this both to the rotation of this thing and the translation using constraint. So let's forget that whole idea and think of a new way.